Namaste and welcome back to another episode of Sapient. Today we have Robin on the pod talking about a lot of things. So, welcome, Robin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you too. Yeah, that was a very shitty intro. I don't know why. I don't do those kind of intros, but let's roll with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, where are you located, Robin?
I'm in the Vancouver, British Columbia area, so I'm in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nice. Nice. Now, India, I'm from India. Um, yeah, we're also climbing in to paying similar taxes as you. So I think we are on the same level.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do have a very large Indian population very close to here out in Surrey.
Mhm.
So the largest growing municipality outside of Vancouver is going to overtake Vancouver.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. So you do have, I would say, a view into Indian culture, right?
Yeah, and one of the jobs I did when I worked in a large company, I did a case management systems project.
Hmm.
So I was the subject matter expert. So we had a whole team from India come over to do the tech piece, and I was kind of the person telling them how to set it up and then testing it out, finding the problems,
Hmm.
and then interpreting between the tech people and the other people. So it was an interesting process.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like Indians are very weird and different. Weird in a very positive way because yeah, I don't know because we took Western culture, right, and we took Indian culture and we just mixed it up and I don't know made something out of it. So you could call it as Western Indian culture, or I don't know how to name it also.
Yeah, there's kind of this mix, and it's the same. There's a really high Asian population here in Richmond.
Yeah.
And so seeing the differences in generations,
Hmm.
right? Where younger people are wanting more independence from that family unit,
Hmm.
where a lot of Asian cultures, you live together.
Yeah.
And talking to, I remember talking to, I think it was my podiatrist, and he's like, I don't want to live with my dad.
Yes, but does he have a choice though?
Well, he did because he made good money, so
Yeah.
he could.
No, actually, in Indian families, it doesn't matter. You could make a lot of money, but still, yeah, you could
Yeah.
not do that.
Um, I've been following on Instagram Zarna Gig.
Uh-huh.
Do you know her,
No, sorry,
comedian?
I'm not aware of her.
She is very funny. So
Hmm.
she's Indian mom with, in the US now,
Hmm.
and two kids, a boy and a girl, that are like late teens. And she's always kind of giving them advice and doing the, bad mother in law jokes, and all around the Indian culture is very funny.
Yeah, yeah. It does feel refreshing, at least for Indians, to see Indian culture being accepted worldwide because
Yeah.
it was not the case earlier, right?
Yeah. And I know it's challenging too for people with our ability to bring people in,
Mhm.
like because of so many family members, to get all the family to come
Yeah.
and emigrate together. And, my both of my sides on my grandparents came from other countries, Ukraine and Ireland. So,
Hmm.
they went through that same process of being outsiders and then coming in. Like my grandparents that were Ukrainian, they never learned to speak English. So they
Hmm.
stayed in a community where people spoke that language and didn't feel the need, like came to work on farms to farm the land. And so they didn't really interact that much outside of their community.
Yeah, that's interesting. That. Canada especially has this kind of sweet spot for immigrants, isn't it? Like they have always been known to accept any and every people, right? They're like, are you having issues? Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. And
yeah.
just, we don't have enough. We're not like some countries getting enough population in to replace our population. So it is a challenge.
Yeah, especially right now in South Korea, like the birth fertility rate is falling, and it is falling to dangerous levels. And they're saying by 2048, there will be no new born babies. Like it's all old people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Cambodia too, in the war, right? There was all the young people. Um, yeah, it was decimated. So, yeah, it's interesting globally how
Mm-hmm.
this is all shifting, and we've always. I think we have one of the largest Ukrainian populations. A lot came, like my grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
to farm, and we brought a lot of people in with the war that's happening there. So we see it, and there's the challenges of housing and all those other things. So
Yeah.
good and challenges with it all.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It is interesting, right? Like how governments have left housing alone, and all the sharks have starting to circle real estate, and now all the
Yeah.
salmons and all the other small fishes are like, what do I do? And Corbett's like, I don't know.
And it's so expensive, right? And like when I was younger, I
Hmm.
went into one of the first housing co-ops that was here, and our federal government gave money to that, and that stopped. And so we don't have that kind of secure housing the same as we used to.
Hmm. Yeah, government definitely said it sounds like a you problem, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the other day there was somebody trolling real estate in Canada. He was showing a shed for 2.35 million Canadian dollars.
It is crazy the cost of real estate. Like my apartment, I bought it 30 some years ago
Hmm.
for $123,000. It's worth about 500,000 now.
Nice.
So that sounds
Hmm.
great, but what do you buy instead?
Yeah.
Because the prices are all higher. So it doesn't matter in that market.
Yeah, definitely. And especially in developed cities, it's more of a challenge, right? Like there is no space. That's what people want to spread the message. Like there is no space. Um,
Yeah.
there is not enough houses. But I'm pretty sure there are enough houses if we just let corporations not buy real estate.
Yeah, we have a hold, I think 2 years for non-country
Yeah. Hmm.
buyers. The problem is the cost. People can't
Hmm.
afford what's available. So to build stuff that people can't afford is kind of, useless as far as I can see.
Yeah.
And how do we incentivize more rentals? And we're worried about climate change, and Vancouver City just took a step backwards from looking at a more sustainable buildings. So they had a project saying new buildings had to be electric and so sustainable energy, and they backtracked on that,
Hmm.
where people may be able to just use gas and the resources that we know are not going to be available in the future.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's interesting that Canada is one of those countries which takes proactive steps in sustainability when Canada has one of the biggest resources in natural resources, right? Like you
yeah.
you guys have one of the largest reserves, yet you are worried about future.
But we have the climate change challenges. Right now, we have like 500 fires in BC.
Mm-hmm.
So, climate change is here. It's too hot.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have, we're not getting the rain. Like we were a rainforest. We're not a rainforest anymore here
Mm-hmm.
on the West Coast.
Yeah. Do you think deforestation kind of changed the game there?
Partly,
Mm-hmm.
um, and disease,
Yeah.
like Stanley. Yeah, I've got
But
a really good one too that I never have problems with. So,
yeah. So Podcastle, if you're listening to this, your software sucks.
yeah, I haven't heard of Podcastle before, but I'm finding people are using some new interesting
Hmm.
platforms.
Yeah. Podcastle gives me ability to like do a lot of things with AI in terms of editing and post production. So I'm less worried about it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so we are talking about rainforest and how it's not a rainforest anymore.
Yeah, and there's been diseases, and Stanley Park, our crowning jewel of Vancouver, this huge, huge, beautiful park,
Hmm.
about a third of the trees are getting cut down because of some infestation. So they'll be planting new trees to make it more diverse, but people need to do it with their gardens and many different ways.
Okay, I have a rather an extremist opinion about that, right? I feel like most of the diseases are introduced because there is um, benefit behind it.
Hmm. So what would be the benefit?
Well, you could encroach on the land if you
So
could somehow prove that that particular land was not um, useful anymore.
yeah, I think one of the big pieces, because we are an international city,
Hmm.
do have a lot of people fly in from different places and bring things with them too. I think, we see this all the time, like look out for this weed or that weed or this kind of thing because it's been introduced from someone bringing it from somewhere else.
Hmm.
And because it's not compatible with our place, then it creates a problem in other
Yeah,
aspects.
definitely. So now let's talk about trouble in people's life.
Sure. There's lots of that too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Especially culturally.
Yes. So how do you help people?
Yeah, so what I do is help people really understand who they are and why they do what they do. So my background includes psychology, counseling, conflict resolution, and I find a lot of what I do with people ends up being conflict resolution, like giving them different tools and ways of looking at things
Hmm.
so that we're not taking things personally, because usually that's where we get in trouble. We take it
Yes.
personally, so we get reactive instead of taking that moment to breathe. And it's like, what is my reaction here? Is it reminding me of someone? Because we set up these patterns when we're young in our families and we're not seen and heard. And then what happens is those patterns carry forward and we feel that same way. Someone might have the same energetics or a
Hmm.
certain phrase or some way they trigger us. And then so we're reacting to that trigger rather than to what the person is actually saying or doing. And so one of the ways I like to look at it is, you know, how does it make sense to that person? How can we stay curious and not be
Hmm.
reactive? Can we take a couple of breaths and just allow that person to be there and connect with them?
Got it. You opened up a lot of avenues for me, right? To ask. Let me ask you this: if you look at the current American situation, right? Because it's just that it's a situation, um, and this kind of tribalism, you know, has taken a major place in society, right? With either you are with me or against me. There is no in between.
Yeah,
And
this polarity. Yeah.
yeah, and that polarization is so extreme that anybody who is not interested in participating are seen as like, oh, you're against me, right? So do you think this kind of tribalism is our instinct, or is it something that we have just grown to learn?
I believe we've learned it. And the problem is we don't deal with our emotions. And two of the biggest emotions that we do not know how to deal with, that we've gotten away from in community, is anger and grief. And this is what's, keeping this going, especially in the US. We see it all the time. Think of all the people who have been killed through mass shootings, through all these different things. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of
For
anger.
saying the wrong thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Being, you know, tossed out of something, right? Kind of that excommunication. Same with religion, right? It's gotten to
Hmm.
this. And even I find that with talking to people to do podcasts. People are branding themselves as Christian. I'm changing to a Christian group. I'm a Christian this, to try to separate themselves, where I believe more in spirituality, that we all have a way of looking at the world. We're all connected to that universal love. And so I don't disclude people, but if you're going to start quoting scriptures or doing this or doing something that excludes people, I don't feel as comfortable with that, because, I try to use different words: source, maybe it's God for you, maybe it's universal love, so that
Yeah.
we can see it as the same thing, that we all want that same underlying thing, because as humans we all have the same underlying needs. We want to be loved, taken care of, seen for who we are, so really feeling seen and heard. And if we could actually do that and realize we're in these grief processes and anger things that we don't know how to express, it would
Yeah.
create a much different reaction in people.
Hmm. And how do you think, right? Let's say you for a second you're a god, right? I'm not saying you are, but if you were a god,
Hmm.
how would you fix this issue of tribalism and people trying to choose sides, from a point of view of, uh, I would say, propaganda rather than actual facts?
Yeah, one of the laws that we talk about in the Enneagram is the law of three, where we can hold disparate things. So, is it, being and doing, for example, or knowing and not knowing? And I think that's a big thing for people these days is I want
Hmm.
to know, I want to have certainty, but we can't know, right? There's the unknown in life. So, how can I hold both of those things at the same time and allow something else to emerge? So, can I hold, yes, I'm a Democrat and I'm a Republican. So, how do we hold that and say, yeah, there's things in both, benefits and challenges in both? How can we have that and look at what do we really want underneath that, right? Because this is all the external stuff and ways that we feel safe and create these kind of boundaries, false boundaries around us to feel safe, because things are feeling out of control. So we grasp and we constrict when we feel out of control, and that's how people are feeling. So can we do that? Can we take that moment to breathe and say, tell me about it, and actually listen to people and take care of ourselves, self regulate, right? We have a hard time doing that. We just express, we don't listen. We're waiting to respond rather than
Hmm.
actually listening.
Yeah, because in a recent conversation, um, P.S. Morgan asked Jordan Peterson whether he was religious, right? And he said rather something which was very profound. He said, "Are you religious?" is one of the most personal questions you could ask a human, right? And when we talk about left and rights in political situation or landscape, right? That's often the main mainstream conversation,
Hmm.
right? Like all of us are very religious, and opposite side is not, they are the devil, and um, these kind of things, which honestly looks like more like a socialism or a communism than democracy.
Well, it is. We're moving away from democracy if we don't allow dissenting views. And, it's micro macro, both in our personal relationships and on the bigger stages. So, how do we allow that? Right. And this is why, I'm right and you're wrong. And there's only two ways to look at it. And it's not. There's lots of variations. And if we could actually put it on the table and say, where are we the same? Right. That's the whole piece of the conflict resolution. Yeah, we want religion because what does it give us? Right? It gives us community
Hmm.
often. Like I remember meeting M. Scott Peck. Do you remember him, The Road Less Traveled?
Nope. I'm looking him up
Maybe
right now.
before your time. I'm
Yes.
dating myself. So he was a religious leader, but a big thinker.
Hmm.
And so he was very much in the 60s of, we're taking the road less traveled. It wasn't a religious, but it was a book that talked about building community and caring for each other and all of these different things that were very important. And then when I met him and he was talking about, religion is good because it creates that community. And at the time, I wasn't open enough to hear that. But I do see the benefit, later I could see it because that's what people want. We've gotten away with that with, living in cities. We don't have that same cultural attachment in Western societies as some of the other cultures. And so we're losing that, right? We're so busy. We think of parents, they don't have grandparents to look after kids, and they're in these daycares and stuff that they're not building community. And so people feel lost. And so when they find some community in some way, then that's really important to them, and they're really fiercely protective of it. So it's like the
Hmm.
mother bear, right? So I'm going to protect that at all costs. So it could be anything, right? And this is how we can get into the extremism, because it's like this is the only way to think, in many
Hmm.
different ways. So whether it's religion or something else, maybe it's a way, maybe I'm a gamer and it's this game that I like, right? It could be anything. So if we take away the specifics and look at it more generally, and what is that actually providing for us, then we can have a discussion about community. We can have a discussion about, I want to be loved and accepted for myself, right? But we get
Hmm.
these mixed messages, and so people are floundering, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to believe this little bit, or focus on that, and that's going to help me get through and survive.
Hmm.
So when we're in survival mode, we'll just take what we can get.
Now, a quick shout out to Luxy, a dating app tailored for those who appreciate quality. Luxy goes beyond the ordinary with a selective membership process that ensures you're connecting with singles who share your high standards. Plus, Luxy's income verification feature brings a unique touch, offering a level of trust and exclusivity you won't find anywhere else. Want to elevate your dating experience? Try Luxy and meet people who match your ambition, style, and goals.
Yeah, I was having an argument with one of my guests. It was not an argument, rather a discussion, right?
A heated
Where,
discussion.
no, not heated at all. It was more fun actually,
Yeah.
um, because I felt like
pessimism or negativity is very natural to us, and positivity is something that we learn as we grow. Because when we were infants, we would operate on natural instincts rather than thoughts.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because as an Enneagram teacher, we talk about coming into the world with our personality. Like we have that kind of worldview that we come in with, and then our upbringing kind of helps focus that in different ways. And for me, with my type, we can be seen as negative because we're looking for the holes in things, right? Like I was really good at project management. So it's like, this is missing. And I'm looking for the safety and, those things that are very practical. And so to other people, it might look negative or, not positive, but I'm a very optimistic person. Like I believe
Mhm.
that, we can connect with people. We can do lots of great things together. Like, I really believe that we're better together. We can do more together than separately. We need our individuality and we're each unique, but our needs are similar and we can create so much more together. But if you asked me, I would say my natural inclination is to
Mhm.
have that kind of, well, what's up with that? Like the testing of ideas and having that ability to question things is really
Mhm.
normal for me. So that curiosity piece, which got me in trouble sometimes as a kid. But other people are very much the opposite. So their kind of temperament that they come in with is very positive. Like one particular type, they don't really want to go into the deep, dark feelings. It's more about, let's have fun. This is all great. Let's have the next experience. Um,
Mhm.
and we learn to temper some of those things. And the more we learn to deal with our automatic responses, the more we have more range of options to do it. But there are, from my perspective, people that have more of that kind of optimistic, positive outlook automatically, and other people who have that, no, there's some danger there, like me. It's like, okay, I need to negotiate that. I need to, have things in place for myself and plan more
Mhm.
or whatever it is.
Yeah. So it is dependent on their personality, right?
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting from what you just said, that it is totally dependent on a person's individual character,
Yeah.
whether they will be positive or negative.
Yeah, that temperament that we come in with. And and for some people it can look different. Like there's 9 different types and then there's variations within that. But for a certain type, like a 9, they're the peacemaker, so I don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
So I'm going to agree with you, but then I can get really stubborn because I maybe wanted to say no, but I said yes because I don't want to create things. So I can look very positive, but then you might get frustrated with me when I kind of sabotage the something that we were going to do that I didn't really want to do.
Yes. Yeah. It does make sense when we look at it from a psychological point of view, right?
Yeah.
Because um, people are different, but I truly feel like people are not that different like people would claim to be.
Yeah, we have a lot of similarities, right? Because the needs are there. How we interpret it, how we act it out is can be very complex and
Hmm.
a challenge for us to figure out. I do a process called a motivational map. So I have people guess what are your top 3 motivators and what's your bottom one. And most people
Hmm.
don't get it right. So they don't know what drives their behavior, what fuels them, what energizes them. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
I read a lot of philosophy, and I am more interested in philosophers who are pessimists than optimists. Yeah,
Well,
because I feel like. Yeah, sorry.
They're the basis of psychology as philosophists.
Right, because I feel like there is too much positivity going around these days.
Well, the I don't know if you've heard of spiritual bypass, but that's exactly what happens a lot of times. Are you familiar with that
Hmm.
term?
Nope.
So, we have all these things in society about manifesting. Just think of it and it's going to happen. It's like, that's not true. Like, I actually met Maria Diamond, who was in The Secret, and she said, they left so much out of that movie. But there's this way of, and the marketing, and marketing is changing, thank goodness. But it's like, just do this one thing and you'll never feel it again, it'll never be a problem. Like, I'm maybe a bit biased, but I find that with NLP, like, just do this, put your fingers together and you'll be fine. It's like, that's not lasting change to me. Like, we have to change more on the inside, and that framework of how we see things and deal with things. So that this is the term that came up, spiritual bypass. So I'm here, I need to heal, fix my things, so I'm just going to go to the happy place. But there's nothing in between. There's no going deep into where that came in. And in the Enneagram and other processes, we have what's called shadow work. So we look at those deep places that haven't been seen or heard, and can create problems for us because they're in our subconscious. We haven't addressed them, they're not heard, so they're going to be heard in some way. So they come through as self sabotage. So, unless we do that deeper work and deal with the emotions, we're not going to just go to the happy place. And that's not realistic to be in our happy place all the time.
Yeah. So I feel like, again, this is my take personally, um, that positivity and that kind of relaxed mindset can only be afforded by those people who are economically strong.
Well, there's different studies that have
Mhm.
shown it's not always about the economic, it's about our way of viewing it as well. But if you don't have the basic needs, are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Nope.
So in psychology, there's this pyramid, and we use
Mhm.
it with the motivational map as well. So on the bottom is our basic needs, food, shelter, all those things. And
Water, internet.
yeah, internet. Nowadays we do. So as we go up the pyramid, and we have to have one layer dealt with and be okay with before we go to the next. And the top one is self actualization. So if we have our basic needs met, then we can go up to those other levels. So I would say, that's a minimum requirement. If we can't feed and clothe ourselves and house ourselves, then yeah, we're not going to be happy. How can we be? We're in survival mode every second of every day, thinking, where are we going to sleep tonight? Where are we going to get our next meal, right? And we have so many unhoused
Yeah.
people now. But when those needs are met, then more that way of, I might not have a lot of money, but I have a good family or community. I feel that I have what I need and I don't need more. I think it really depends on the culture that you're in the society. I mean, here in Vancouver, there are people who say they're not happy because they're paying 60% of their salary in rent. So they can't afford to go and date and, do different things. And to me, it's like you make the best of the situation. Yeah, maybe you're here for your work. But also people want the lifestyle, right? We have the ocean, we have the mountains. It's a beautiful city, but you can go out for a hike for free. We have festivals all summer that are free all the time. There's lots of things that we can do, and we can build connections. But I think part of it is it has tended to be seen as a cliquey kind of city. So people feel that dating is hard here, for example. So if people are not allowing other people in, and you're feeling as an outsider, yeah, and no amount of money is going to change that. But if you have money, maybe you can go to other things where you can feel that you can fit into that crowd because you have the money. So
Hmm.
it really depends to me. And one of the motivators that we have is that lifestyle that we want, and often it's created through money because then we have the freedom to do what we want. So what we see with motivation, yeah, there's nine, but that how it plays out for each person is individual. So for someone that might be important, another person it might not. It may be more about making a difference, for example. So, Mother Teresa, she didn't have any money. She was happy. She was doing what she loved. She was helping people.
Yeah, and converting people to Christianity.
Yeah, yeah. And that was her way of what she felt was important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, um, the reason I brought it up is because today's culture says that don't do something if you're not passionate about it. And I'm like, if you really take that advice to heart, um, you know, you are screwed because there are a lot of things that we don't like, but we have to do.
And that's true, right? So is can we reframe that to, for people, like the spirit wants freedom, independence, making your own decision. That's one of the motivators. If I can reframe it to say, if I can get some of these things done, like my paperwork as an entrepreneur, if I can get those chart notes done or whatever it is for you, right? The things you hate to do, the day to day boring stuff, the more I put in a structure to get that done, the more freedom I'm going to have, because otherwise I'm probably procrastinating and I'm not getting that stuff done. So it's running around in my head and I don't feel I'm enjoying things when I'm doing other things. So, can we see that, yes, structure gives us more freedom, for example?
Yeah. And because for example, right, I might hate my job, right? And if I go with the modern standard of positivity, I would quit that job.
Right.
And I would put myself in harm's way because I wanted to be positive, right? Whereas if I just had an ounce of discipline, I would be like, okay, let's push through this, right? Let's do this job until we find something that does not suck.
Yeah, and so, we have to make decisions. And that's why, the branding I did is a life of choice, because we have choice in every minute of every day. So what's more important to me? Security or having that freedom, but knowing that freedom comes with a cost. If we are too much anyway, there's some cost, right? If I'm so focused on growth and learning the next thing and the next thing and next thing, the achievement part of me, the relationship part of me, something's going to give. And we see this in relationships all the time, right? I'm so focused on the achievement, for example, then the relationships suffer. So, how do we see where we're at and then make those decisions from, maybe I hate this job, but it's giving me a paycheck. What can I do in the interim? Can I take some courses towards what I do want? Like learning to balance that, knowing it's a means to the end, and being grateful for having the job. And, there are other worse jobs out there. I used to work with people injured on the job, and I'd go out to these factories that dealt with chickens and stuff. And in the summer, they always wanted to file claims for some reason or another because the smell was so bad. Could you imagine working with dead chickens on a line? It's not a
Yeah.
pleasant job. And the doctors I'd go out with, they'd say, I'm bringing my kids so they see this, so they go to university.
Yeah. I feel very weird when CEOs of companies talk about passion because yeah, passion is important, but I don't think the janitor of your organization wanted to be janitor by passion.
Well, it's an interesting one because, some people, they just care about what they do, whether they're a janitor or something.
But would you be passionate about it? That's the question, right? Because they say everybody in my organization needs to have that kind of motivation and passion towards what they do.
Yeah, I think it's pretty um, unrealistic to expect everyone
Yeah.
all the time to have that passion. And that's a great philosophy. So if you do have that person who is the janitor, like what are you doing for them to help them find that passion? Maybe they allow them certain benefits that help to bring that passion up because they get to do something else. Maybe they get to spend more time with their family or go off and take some courses or, whatever fuels them. So they feel the passion for the job because it gives them not just the paycheck, but there's something, or people appreciate them. There's a huge difference in an organization. Like I try to make a point of people who feel like they're in these menial jobs. To me, there's no menial jobs. It's just like I always say, thank you. You go to the food fair, you put your tray over, thank you for doing this. Like just some simple kindness, cashiers in the store, because people dump on them all the time. It's like, thank you. Or if you see someone being mean to them, that's not personal. They're having a bad day. Like, thank you for what you're doing. I know it's not an
Mhm.
easy job. So I think we can help them. That may be not be their top job that they like, but that's the
Mhm.
circumstances that they found themselves in.
Yeah, because a lot of organization leaders talk about everybody working with the organization value, right? We have this value system and everybody needs to be aligned with it. But the reality is most of people who work in an organization are just there to earn a paycheck, that's all.
Well, and that's the thing, right? And that's why the map is so important because the people that are there to earn the paychecks, they're not going to stay. And that's why we have the staff turnover and things like that, because people do not feel they're getting what they need. The problem is that, yes, the company does have to have their values, their vision, their mission, and all of that, but they also need to help people realize what drives them. So, not having this kind of cookie cutter approach because not everyone is motivated by the same thing. Yeah, some people are going to be motivated by the money, some by the relationships. Like people will stay in a job too long because of the people they're with, or the friends that they like leave. And so they no longer feel attached and they
Mhm.
leave, right? So it really depends. Or maybe it's, I need to learn and grow. Like I did that. I worked in an organization for 34 years and I could constantly learn. Like I moved departments, I did different jobs, I learned new skills, and that fueled me for a long time. So it really depends. I mean, I had good benefits too. I had great holidays and all of those things. So all of those things were very good. And so I liked doing the work until later when I became more independent and entrepreneurial. Then the bureaucracy part wasn't was more irritating. It became more irritating over time as I changed because motivation changes over time. So I became more wanting to do my own thing. So I didn't fit anymore. And so that's why we have to realize that we grow and change too, and what motivates us change. Like if you think, um, you're in university, you're learning and doing all these things which fuel you in a certain way, but then you leave and you're in your new job or you get married or, all those life transitions change what fuels us and what energizes us.
Yeah, but do you feel like organization structures absolutely hate creativity and kind of entrepreneur mindset?
I feel Some organizations love it, especially in these times with change so fast. Other organizations feel threatened by it. And the ones that can become stagnant don't have, in the Enneagram world, the four, there's that very creative energy. And if you don't have someone on your team or in your company that has that, how are you bringing
Mhm.
it in? So if you don't have the
Yeah.
people that bring that, how are you doing it? Because without creativity, how do you change to stay with your market, stay with the times? And we see this with companies that end up closing because they won't change their model, right? And with the map, we can actually look at how open to change is the organization or how slow to change they are. So we need kind of a balance because, yeah, we need the efficiencies, but if we're just looking at efficiencies, what's being missed. So again, this is the way we've always done it.
Mhm.
Well, that doesn't work. Tech changes, all these things change over time, what people want, how your organization fits with the world, all of those different things.
Got it. And Robin, if people want to talk to you, or just take your services, how can they do that?
I'm at Robyn, Robyn, at a lifeofchoice.ca, ca because I'm in Canada, no .com,
Mhm.
or a lifeofchoice.ca is the website. So I'm there and I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Got it. So, guys, if you have any questions or suggestions, or even if you want to just talk to Robin, all of her links will be in the description. You can reach out to her and just talk to her, because yeah, she seems somebody who is knowledgeable, and you know uh, yeah, and maybe you could learn a thing or two from her. So Robin, thank you so much for being here, taking your time. I know we spoke on a lot of different kind of topics, right?
Mhm.
I feel like that provides value, right? Because we're not only talking about one thing, and providing value to one particular type of person. So yeah, thank you so much for doing that.
Well, thank you for having your show, and it was a great conversation.
Yes, thank you so much. And yeah, even though podcast decided to be trashy today, thank you for your patience. And to my audience, guys, this is the end of the episode. And until next episode, take care and bye bye.